Outcasted OC. Viewer discretion is advised. Incoming transmission in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's going on, guys? It's Courtney here from the Outcasted OC Podcast, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw recap. I'm not going to waste your time, let's just get straight into it. So this week, Monday Night Raw kicked off with the entirety of Judgment Day, bar Dominic Mysterio in the middle of the ring. So the arena was all black, there was lots of lights going on, and then lights turn on, and then it's the Judgment Day in the middle of the ring. So it was Rhea, Damien, and Finn. Damien welcomes everybody to Monday Night Raw and says all will rise for Judgment Day. Rhea says that we not only run Monday Night Raw, but we also run the entirety of the WWE. Finn Balor says, you know, you've got the Women's World Champion Rhea Ripley here, you've got Senor Money in the Bank, who is Damian Priest, you've got yours truly, who will be the next World Heavyweight Champion. But let's take a look back at NXT. So we get a video recap of what happened last week on NXT, which was when Dominic Mysterio became the new NXT North American Champion. Then Rhea says, it's my honour to introduce the new NXT North American Champion, my Latino Heat, Dominic Mysterio. Dominic's music hits. He gets booed, like, out of the building as per normal. And he just basically goes ahead and says that he's the new fighting NXT North American Champion. They get interrupted by Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. So Kevin Owens comes out and says, you know, we did this entire thing last week, you know. They spoke, we came out, we spoke. And he said, you know, the one over there with the mullet tried to talk, but no one wanted to hear it. And he said, you know what really gets me is the fact that people don't learn. We're trying to teach people lessons and they don't learn. And he basically just said, you know, Dominic, no one cares about whatever you have to say. That's why you're getting booed all the time. And then he said, if you want to help this business, shut your mouth forever. And the crowd just starts cheering, obviously super excited that someone's finally putting Dominic in his place. Sami Zayn says, you know, you are being disrespected, but it's because nobody respects you, like, at all. And he says, you know, I have an idea for you to win some respect. How about we have a one-on-one match between you and one half of the tag team champions tonight? So how about we do Dominic Mysterio versus Sami Zayn? And the crowd goes crazy for that. And Dominic says, well, do you want some dirty Dom? You can come get it. And Sami says, well, if you are a fighting champion, why don't you put the championship on the line tonight in this match? And then Rhea butts in and says, Sami, Dom accepts. So there is a match that will happen later on in the evening, which is Sami Zayn versus Dominic Mysterio, and it's for the NXT North American Championship. Then we have the match between Becky Lynch and Zoe Stark. Now, this was obviously referenced on Monday Night Raw last week. If Becky Lynch won this match, she gets to have a rematch against Trish Stratus. So from the get-go, Becky's looking really strong. She's getting a lot of offense in. She's obviously very fired up, wanting to win the match. Zoe does make a really strong comeback, though. There's a lot of really good moves. There was this one move where Zoe did like a drop kick off the top ropes, which was really cool. I find that they have a lot of really good chemistry together. A lot of their moves work really well. And there's obviously Trish Stratus is at ringside, and she tries to interfere with a headbutt, and then at some stage she ends up trying to throw her mask into the ring. But that's no challenge for Becky Lynch, because Becky Lynch did come away with the win on this one. I highly suggest you go and watch the match. It's very entertaining and it's really good wrestling from both of the women. And because Becky Lynch has now won this match, it means A, she no longer has to thank Trish Stratus. B, she no longer has to get a tattoo saying thank you Trish on her chest. And 3, I think I said 3. Anyway, 1, 2, 3. This is how excited I am. She now gets a rematch against Trish Stratus. Now, I'm thinking that this rematch is potentially going to happen at SummerSlam. It hasn't been announced yet, but mark my words, if it does happen at SummerSlam, it gets announced next week. Then we had a video recap from last week's Monday Night Raw, obviously showing the events that happened between Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar. Then Cody Rhodes comes out to the ring to cut a promo, and, you know, he references the clip that was just played of Brock Lesnar beating him up, and he said, you know, we've all seen it, and the fact that it was in front of my mother, like, am I surprised? No, like, we're talking Brock Lesnar here. And he references his UFC career and references his NFL career as well too. And he said, you know, Brock Lesnar is basically known as being Mr. SummerSlam around here. And he says, am I surprised? No. And then he said, my mum wasn't really impressed by the way that he tried to embarrass me in front of everybody in my hometown. And he basically said, beating me up wasn't a mistake, but the fact that you left me breathing was the mistake. And then he starts breathing into the mic, clearly showing he's got some signs of life in him. And, he says at the end of the day, Brock Lesnar, I'm not only going to beat you, but I am going to embarrass you at SummerSlam. And it's basically getting very personal at this stage. Cody Rhodes is taking it very personally. He's like, I'm just gonna embarrass you at SummerSlam. And he says, when I'm old and grey and I look back at the chapter of Brock Lesnar, I know it's not going to be pretty, but I managed to pin the final paragraph to that chapter at SummerSlam. And at SummerSlam, I end this. So it was a really good promo from Cody, really just solidifying that, once Cody wins this match, which we're all hoping he does, this chapter of Brock and Cody can be finished and Cody can move on to finishing the rest of the story. How long that story is, I don't know, but it'd be nice to see him finish it off. Then we had a video recap of Logan Paul and Ricochet's interaction from a few weeks ago, which was followed by Jackie Redmond backstage trying to get a few words in with Ricochet. So she quickly sees him and says hey, do you have any thoughts on Logan Paul coming to Monday Night Raw later on tonight? And Ricochet says, I'm happy that the invitation got accepted, but, he shows up late and comes and goes as he pleases because he's a YouTube star. And he says, I believe when he shows up, there is going to be some business that we do need to take care of. But until that, I'm just going to save everything that I want to say to Logan, to his face. So he's keeping it very close to his chest, what he ends up saying to Logan Paul. Then we had the match between Sami Zayn and Dominic Mysterio. Now, this was for the NXT North American Championship. There is parts in the match where you've got KO ringside and you've also got Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley ringside. Now, with all of these Judgment Day matches, it's kind of obvious that there will be a little bit of interference going on. So Damian does try and interfere in the match, and then KO basically attacks Damian, and then KO gets called out for the interference and gets ejected from ringside. But the ref's not stupid because he knows that the Judgment Day interferes as well, so he ejects both of them out of ringside as well too. It was a really good match, a lot of good chemistry, really good spots going on. There were so many moments in the match where it actually looked like Sami Zayn was going to win, but then Dominic ended up being able to reverse some moves. There's, I think, 3 attempts for Sami Zayn to get into the 619 by Dominic Mysterio, which on that 3rd attempt it was executed, which was awesome to see. And then at the end, so they've been ejected from ringside, we didn't see them, the match continues for a little bit, and then the finishing moments, you have Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley bringing out KO down the entrance ramp again, causing a distraction, which ended up getting Dominic Mysterio the opportunity to win by a sneaky roll-up. So Dominic Mysterio retains the NXT North American Championship. I'm not really surprised that this happened. It would have been cool to see Sami Zayn actually become the NXT North American Champion, but he's busy with KO. And unfortunately, after this, we did end up finding out that Kevin Owens is actually legitimately injured, which I'm really hoping his recovery goes well, and I hope he's not out of the ring for too much longer. But it basically might mean he's getting written off TV. I'm not too sure. I'm really hoping there isn't that much we have to worry about. But then after the match, we end up seeing that there's a medical segment. So KO's backstage with medical staff, Adam Pearce and Sami Zayn, and he's basically complaining about something being broken. So that's pretty much what we see after the match. Then we end up getting a video recap segment from the Rules of Engagement interaction segment from the Bloodline from Friday Night SmackDown, which is followed by Shinsuke Nakamura is backstage. Ricochet comes up to Shinsuke and says hey, have you seen Logan by chance? And Shinsuke's no, I haven't. Ricochet's all right, cool, let me know if you do see him. And Shinsuke turns around to walk away and he ends up running into Tommaso Ciampa. And Tommaso says, your loss last week was on me, and that kick to the face, I'll let it slide, but this isn't charity. You get one free kick and then I don't give you charity after that point. And he says, tonight I'm going to settle Big Bronson Reed. And he said, I don't expect you to be out there interfering, but if you do, just know that we will have a problem. Is that understood? Good talk. And I was oh man. I feel like Shinsuke's going to interfere somehow. So then we end up having the match between Bronson Reed and Tommaso Ciampa. Now, from the get-go, Bronson Reed is looking really strong. He's taking the offense on this. He's taking charge in this match. He's laying it into Tommaso Ciampa, obviously, for the loss that he suffered last week, the interference that happened during the match. There's a lot of really good spots in the match. There was a moment where Tommaso Ciampa looked like he was going to try and hit a fairy tale ending on Bronson Reed, but falls unsuccessful, which is fine. It'd be cool to see him eventually hit that. During the end, near the end of the match, Shinsuke Nakamura does come out, which ends up distracting Tommaso Ciampa. And then Bronson Reed, I believe, ends up hitting some kind of move outside of the ring. I can't remember exactly what one it was, but Bronson Reed did end up picking the win up, which was good. I'm happy to see Bronson Reed is getting pushed, but not at the downfall of Tommaso Ciampa. I really think he's got a lot more that he can do on the main roster, and I feel like he's kind of in a limbo period. I feel like he's waiting for Johnny to come back so that they can reunite DIY and reunite The Way, but I kind of just feel as though like Tommaso's kind of just coasting, waiting for his moment, which I'm sure will come. Tommaso Ciampa's amazing. He's phenomenal. I think that we just got to wait. The time will come. Then we see, actually this happened before the match, my bad. But anyway, so we end up seeing Judgment Days quickly walking backstage, and they're talking about the win against Sami Zayn, and they bump into Apollo Crews and Akira Tozawa backstage, and, Dominic walks into Apollo and says, a little respect for the NXT North American champion, please, would be nice. And Apollo's like, are you really just going to act like you didn't, know that I was standing here? And then Damien said, exactly, that's what he is going to do. Do you have a problem with that? And Rhea plays into that moment that they had back in the past with Akira and Rhea, and she goes, yeah, Tozawa, do you have a problem? And Tozawa's like, no, and just walks off. And then Apollo Crews is like, you guys are constantly going around here picking on people and you're just acting like you're that much better than everybody else. And Damian Priest is like, are you really stepping to the most dangerous man in the WWE? And obviously holds the briefcase up. And he says, tonight you'll receive your punishment. And then they obviously leave. And then you get a shot of Apollo Crews and Akira comes back and he's like, you got this. So the reason I get confused is because what they do is they set up a match. So I think what happened is Bronson Reed came out and then they had this video segment and then they had the match. So that's why I got confused. I'm hoping it makes sense, but it's getting really frustrating because when you write it down, you kind of are just writing it how you see it. But anyway, that happened. Then we had a video recap of the beatdown by Rhea Ripley that was for Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan. Now, obviously, this was before their tag team match last week where they ended up losing the tag team titles to Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville. Then we saw Liv Morgan was backstage and she was about to be interviewed by Byron Saxton. It is referenced earlier that there is a serious knee injury going on with Raquel Rodriguez after the attack. And, Byron's like, how's she doing? Is everything all good? How are you feeling? And Liv Morgan says, Raquel is hurting and she should be back soon to take care of Rhea. But she goes, tonight, it's my turn to take care of Rhea. Because she not only took out Raquel Rodriguez, but she's also the reason why we lost the tag titles. And she walks around like she can do whatever she wants and nobody's going to stop her. But I was the last person to defeat Rhea Ripley. So maybe I'll beat her up or maybe I won't. But there's no way I'm backing down. And then Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville walk in and they're like, why are you interviewing her when you could interview the new tag champs? And Chelsea goes, well, everyone tries to act like the entirety of Monday Night Raw revolves around Rhea and Rhea this and Rhea that. And then Sonya picks up on the fact that Rhea's just walked in to that area that they're kind of talking about her. And Sonya's like, Rhea, how's it going? We were literally just talking about you and how you run the place and, you should be walking around like everything revolves around you as you should because, champ things. And they kind of just walk off because they're like, we've got things to do, it's more important. And Rhea goes ahead and says, I warned Liv and Raquel to stay out of my way. They didn't listen. I've taken out Raquel and I'm just going to have to take out Liv next. And then I think before this match, we had the recap of the Viking Rules match from last week. Forgive me if the order's wrong. It's quite literally how I'm seeing it on TV. But anyway, so we had the recap of the match. And then we had the match between Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. Now, this match doesn't actually, like, the bell doesn't ring for the match to take place, because as Liv Morgan is coming out to the ring, as soon as she hits the end of the entrance ramp where you walk around to go into the ring, she's like walking out there, and then Rhea Ripley just runs out of nowhere and literally just like attacks her, beats her down to the ground, and then just like beats her down, and then attacks her shoulder, and then grabs a chair from the timekeeper's area, gets her into the ring and puts her shoulder into the chair, and then stamps on the chair, and then just continually just beats down on that shoulder. And obviously, I referenced Kevin Owens earlier had some form of injury going on. Now it's also believed that Liv Morgan has actually suffered a injury to her shoulder. Whether that's just, re-injuring the shoulder that she already had hurt, I'm hoping she recovers well. I just kind of wish that sometimes if people weren't fully recovered, they don't come back sooner, because then you end up having these injuries happen. And it's just not a good time. Then we had a video segment, which was like a promo backstage segment for Alpha Academy. Now, Chad Gable was talking about how, the Viking Raiders won the Viking Rules match. And I was like, what even is Viking Rules? And he says, we should have an Academy Rules match where, I can put you through a chalkboard. And Maxine says, I don't know what your deal is, Valhalla, or why you're so obsessed with me. Embarrassing you, God. Maxine says, I don't know what your deal is or why you're so obsessed with me. I'm just going to keep embarrassing you every week. She says, you're getting one up on me and you think I'm going to fall down. I hate to bring you bad news, but no one puts off, she said this and I absolutely was like, yes girl, get it. She goes, but nobody puts the Alpha Queen through a table. And she says, we're going to have a one-on-one match next week. And I was like, I'm here for it. Then Ricochet came out to the ring and cut a promo, and he goes, Logan Paul, where you at? I know you're here. Come out here and just come and show me your stupid face. Tries to get him to come out through the entrance ramp, but obviously he doesn't. And he goes, I know you're not back there hanging out with all those wrestlers, because we have a locker room full of guys who know that you don't belong here. Everyone in this arena knows that you don't belong here. And he goes, I know that you don't belong here. And he says that I'm special every time I get into this ring. And I feel a little bit weird about saying this word, but he basically he goes ahead and starts calling Logan Paul an arrogant prick. And I was like, not mad at that. And he talks about, the struggles of the schedule, about how, this is every day for them. Months on end, they go without seeing their families, and, Logan just doesn't understand. Logan just gets to show up whenever he wants, and he gets to stay for as long as he wants or as short as he wants, but he'll never truly understand what it's actually like to be a full-time WWE wrestler that dedicates their life and their bodies to this. And he said, you can do what you want, but I'm challenging you to a match at SummerSlam. And, he says, a fight if you want, but then before he gets to finish his sentence, Logan Paul ends up sneak attacking him from behind. There's a phone. Logan grabs the phone, so it's very reminiscent of Austin Theory's old gimmick, and starts filming him, and he goes, I accept your challenge for SummerSlam. And then Ricochet does, a wee kick up and ends up kicking Logan Paul and hits him with a shooting star press, which was quite cool. Then we end up quickly seeing Jackie Redmond's backstage, and she is chatting to Shayna Baszler. She's like, how are you feeling after everything that's going down? What are your thoughts? Shayna's like, I'm sick of hearing Ronda's name. I'm so tired of it. I'm so tired of constantly being lumped in with her. And she says, I'm going to settle this in a language that Ronda understands. And there's a few moments in this promo where she's dropping the words, she's putting a lot of emphasis on fight, and just basically she's trying to allude to the fact that she wants to have a fight pit match. To be honest, if they have a fight pit match at SummerSlam, it's very fitting because they're both MMA superstars, and also I feel like Shayna Baszler can really shine in this kind of match, and I'm really hoping that Shayna Baszler does get put over at the end of this match, because I feel like we need to get Shayna Baszler back to the old version of her. Then we end up seeing that Logan Paul is walking backstage, and he's looking very hurt, and he ends up talking to Byron Saxton and ends up saying, it was really unprofessional, I'm feeling like a victim, but I am going to come back for Ricochet next week. Then we see the match between Damian Priest and Apollo Crews. Now, this was a very short match. I was kind of disappointed by this because I think this is Apollo Crews' first match back on Raw or on main roster after being on NXT. I could be wrong, but I was really hoping for some more in terms of Apollo getting a chance to shine. He had his moments, but there was no chance for Damian. It was basically no... Oh my god, I can't speak. Then we had the match between Damian Priest and Apollo Crews. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is actually Apollo Crews' first match back on the main roster after his stint in NXT. I could be wrong. This match went kind of short. I was hoping that Apollo would get a little bit more time in this match to actually show his skills off. But unfortunately, this match was very much just set up for Damian Priest to come away with the win, which he did. Then we end up seeing that Becky Lynch is walking backstage really excited after her win against Zoe Stark. Then we end up seeing Jackie Redmond, and Jackie's like, hey man, how you feeling? Like, it was a great match or whatever. And she said, I was so focused on not getting tatted, like this isn't over until I win. So Becky's super excited that she no longer has to worry about getting a tattoo on her chest and that she has her rematch against Trish Stratus at some point in time. Then we had a quick video segment, which was the Viking Raiders. Now, I didn't really pay attention to this segment because at this point of the end of the Monday Night Raw, I was just exhausted. I've worked a long day. But basically, long story short, Valhalla accepts Maxine's challenge for next week, which should be cool to see. Then we had the face-off segment between Gunther and Drew McIntyre. Now, the entirety of Imperium came out with Gunther. No surprises there. And Drew came out and said, Gunther, I heard your challenge. Why don't we settle this now? And Gunther says, you want me to put my title on the line, now, tonight? And Drew's like, did I stutter? And Gunther said, do you want me to put my Intercontinental World Heavyweight Championship on the line tonight in Florida? And Drew said, I dare you to do it. And Gunther makes a very good point. He's like, I've added a lot of prestige to this title since I've had it. More prestige than it had before. And you want me to defend this in Florida in front of these group of degenerates. And he said, that's unacceptable. And then he goes ahead and says, you get nothing done. You failed at Clash. You failed at WrestleMania. And if you want to ride on my coattails, you can ride on my coattails at SummerSlam. And Drew says, well, he starts talking about the WrestleMania match and talks about the past that he's had with Sheamus. And he said, it was always our dream to have a match together at WrestleMania, but it became a triple threat. And then he goes ahead and he says, you stole the show at WrestleMania. We were obviously beating the living hell out of each other. And you came in and just stole the win. And he said, you'll find out why they call me the Chosen One, the Scottish Psychopath, the Scottish Warrior. Ludwig Kaiser comes in and says, Chosen One, Scottish Psychopath, how dare you speak to Gunther like that? And then Drew's like, yeah, well, I actually kind of like you. I feel like you should be the one to lead Imperium. And then this ends up becoming a match between Ludwig Kaiser and Drew McIntyre. So then we ended up having the match between Drew McIntyre and Ludwig Kaiser. Now this is a really hard-hitting match. Drew's looking really good. This was his first singles match. It was referenced on commentary since WrestleMania. Not SummerSlam. We're getting there. But yeah, it was a really good match. Very hard-hitting. And there's obviously interference by Imperium at the very end. Riddle ended up coming out to rescue Drew. I don't know why I wrote rescue Drew, but he ended up coming out to the defense of Drew, and then Drew ended up putting Gunther through the commentary table. So if that's foreshadowing how SummerSlam's going to go, I'm very intrigued, but that's how that went down. Jackie Redmond's backstage, and she quickly gets a word in with Ronda. She's like, Ronda, what do you think about Shayna wanting to have a fight? And Ronda just was basically just like, whenever I fight, it is a fight. Challenge accepted. And I was like, cool, you accomplished nothing with that promo yet again. Then at the end of the evening, we had the contract signing between Finn Balor and Seth Rollins. Now, this is obviously for their match that has been confirmed for SummerSlam. So, Finn's out in the ring first, the table, chairs, everything is set up for a contract signing. Finn makes it known that, Adam Pearce was meant to be here. But unfortunately, he has his hands filled with dealing with Kevin Owens. So Seth's a professional, I'm a professional, Seth and I both want this match to happen. How about we just act like gentlemen? So Seth comes out, sits down at the table, reads the contract, signs the contract, and, Seth says, Finn, you've figured it out. You've got zero chance of leaving SummerSlam as the World Heavyweight Champion, but miracles do happen, and if you do want to win, you know that your World Heavyweight Championship reign is going to be much shorter than the Universal Championship reign that you had, because Damian Priest is going to cash in on you. It's inevitable. We know it's going to happen. And he said, we know because you would do the exact same thing to him. Like he said, SummerSlam's not going to be the coronation of Judgment Day. It's going to be the end of Judgment Day. So Finn signs the contract. And Finn says, you think you've all got it figured out. You think you run this place, but Judgment Day runs this place. And then Damian Priest, you can see in like a different camera angle, he comes out. Dominic comes out and Rhea comes out. So they start like circling the ring. So you've got Seth and Finn, and then you've got the other 3 Judgment Day members around the outside. So they're pretty much going to swamp him. And then Finn goes ahead and says he's been losing for 7 years. And 7 years of losing is driving him insane. And it's all because of Seth. He says it feels like an itch that you can't scratch. It's a 7-year itch. And he said that he's going to make Seth his 7-year BITCH. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to potentially get, in trouble. But he says that. And then Seth decides to flip the table and attacks Dominic because he can see that, the Judgment Day is actually coming to attack him. So he attacks Dominic, and then Priest goes after Seth. And Damian and Finn kind of look at each other. They have like this wee moment that's kind of like, is he right? Is he wrong that you're going to cash in on me? Then Sami Zayn ends up coming out and they start throwing all the stuff out of the ring. So Rhea starts throwing the table and the chairs and everything. And basically they end up just beating down on Seth Rollins. All members of the Judgment Day just start attacking him. So I believe that Damian Priest hits him with a razor's edge. And then Dominic Mysterio hits him with a frog splash, followed by Finn Balor hitting him with a coup de grace. So I'm really hoping this is not the outcome that we're going to be seeing at SummerSlam. But I would like to see Seth come out on top. I don't know where that leaves the Judgment Day from this point on, but it'll be very intriguing to see. But yeah, that is the Monday Night Raw recap. I apologize for it being so all over the place. My notes are basically doing me a disservice today. But also, I find sometimes the format on Monday Night Raw is quite hard to keep up with. Like I said earlier, they'll start having a match and then they'll go to a segment and then have a match, where it's kind of like you could just have the match, then the segment, or you could have the segment, then the match, instead of integrating them all together and making it difficult for the viewer. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this recap. If you do, please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, because that helps the videos get pushed out to other wrestling fans. We will be having a podcast this week. We're going to be doing a Outcasted OC based quiz. So it's a quiz with all of us from the Outcasted crew. So make sure that you follow our socials to keep up to date with when that's going to be happening. There will be an NXT review coming this week, as well as a SmackDown review, potentially an Impact review. I'm not too sure if that's happening just yet. But if you want to keep up to date with all of our uploads, make sure that you follow the channel. Make sure you also follow us on Twitter, and you follow us on TikTok and Instagram. Also, make sure you go ahead and follow our personal socials so you can keep up to date with whatever we're doing when we're not filming on here. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.